Yeah.
Yeah, we will hear the whistle blow several more times. They're doing the demonstration. Might sound very familiar. They use the same signal today. They signal it with horns today, but you're going to hear it with the steam whistle. If any of you folks have trains that pass through town, that signal probably sounded very familiar. They use that same signal, as I was mentioning. And that signal actually ties in with history to the British Navy. When they would be bringing ships into port asking for the right-of-way, they would use that same signal on the steamships. 2 long blasts, a short and a long. That eventually transferred over to the International Morse Code, -- and then also to the railroading industry, and eventually over to America with the British railroading industry being a huge precursor to our industry here. Now that -- is actually Q for Queen, and that's when they would really blast those whistles, is when you had the Queen on board your ship. You'd give that signal, 2 longs, the short and the long, really loud so that everybody knew that you had royalty on board. If you look down right now, you can see the fireman has gotten out. He switched over the switch station down there, and they're getting ready to come forward on this siding. There's our 2 forward whistles. They will come forward on the siding, and the sidings were actually a very important part of the Transcontinental Railroad. You can imagine there was only one road. You needed a way for traffic to get out of each other's way, so they built sidings along the route every 3 to 5 miles. Allow that traffic to move out of each other's way, and there was a hierarchy. If you were carrying passengers or mail, you would have the right way over regular freight traffic. We're going to hear that signal again as they pass the roadway.
Oh, yeah? Yep, so you know the stop whistles and the forward and back. And SOS. Oh, cool. Where'd you learn that? In Scouts or just scout agents?
I knew the ones, and then I learned SOS.
Oh, cool. Now, if you look at the 2 locomotives, you will notice some differences. Some of those differences were just the manufacturers. The original Jupiter was built by Schenectady Locomotive Works in Schenectady, New York. The original 119 was built by Rogers Locomotive Works out of Paterson, New Jersey. There was also some preferences of the railroading companies and the coloring and the style of the smokestacks. There was a fuel source difference. The 119 is a coal-burning locomotive, and we're going to smell that as the 119 does pass us, whereas the Jupiter was a wood-burning. Back up now.
It's water in the grass.
stop whistle down here, and then we'll hear 3 reverse blasts as they prepare to move back down the line. Another difference besides the fuel sources and those that I was just mentioning is the use of these locomotives. The 119 was actually a freight locomotive for the Union Pacific, whereas the Jupiter was a passenger locomotive. Here's our stop whistle, and we'll have our reverse whistles. And they will back past the visitor center before they head out to the engine house for the evening.
Is the engine house down there?
The engine house is just behind the hill, just to the kind of the northwest of the little house. As the 119 heads out, I'm going to just tell one quick story about the original and why there was a freight locomotive here on the day of the ceremony. The 119 actually was not supposed to be here for this ceremony. The original number of the Union Pacific locomotive that was going to bring out Thomas Durant and the other dignitaries has never been able to be tracked down and found. But what happened to bring the 119 out was there was actually a delay in Piedmont, Wyoming, where Thomas Durant and the other dignitaries were actually held hostage by their own railroad workers. They hadn't paid their railroad workers in about 2 months. As these workers figured if they didn't get a hold of somebody that was high up before this ceremony took place, they would never see that money. So what they did was in Piedmont, Wyoming, they threw some of the wooden beams, those ties, across the track. So when the engineer was coming in, he had to stop. When he pulled to a